Hello and welcome. I'm Sani Chi, and here's what happened this week. With sea levels rising and more extreme weather events due to climate change, Taiwan is facing consequences of coastal erosion. Laurel Stewart has more.
Bamboo walls, cement barriers, and gauze matting. These coastal defences were placed on this beach in Taiwan's southern city of Tainan about 10 years ago. But they're no longer working. Rising sea levels have led to the beaches being washed away. There used to be a forest behind this beach, planted as another sea defence. But high tides and huge waves brought by the recent typhoon Haikui have uprooted and killed the trees.
在3年前我们来到这的时候，这里还很多树林，然后我们拍海岸退缩，然后防风林被海水侵蚀倒掉的样子。
Scientists say sea levels are rising faster than people can prepare for.
台湾周遭海平面上升0.5公尺到很极端的1.2公尺，就是我们包含台北或高雄，比它就在海边，或台南就在海边，海边的相邻的这些位置的影响会比较大。
And people nearby are living with the consequences. Strong winds from the south have made sea surges a regular occurrence. And with less effective coastal defences, flooding has become more common. This neighbourhood in the southern city of Kaohsiung is by a canal. In August, seawater burst the banks and came up through drains near people's homes. Wary residents now keep their own defences in place. And despite efforts to restore the coastlines using quarried land, maintaining robust coastal defences will have to be prioritised as Taiwan sees more extreme weather in the face of climate change. Eason Chen and Laurel Stewart for TaiwanPlus.
It's World Vegetarian Month, a chance for hardcore carnivores to try something different. And in Taiwan, a pair of entrepreneurs are trying to demonstrate it's not as hard as you might think. Sally Jensen went to meet them.
This is one of the most popular dishes in Taiwan, pork belly. But what's sizzling on the pan is a new take on an old favourite. This is a vegan pork belly developed by a Taiwanese-American startup called Lipid. The company has produced and patented a plant-based fat which resembles animal fat without harming any animals. It's now being served in some Taipei restaurants.
This could be a solution to the general kind of plant-based meat market because there isn't a quality plant-based fat that can mimic the mouthfeel, texture, and also the flavor delivery of animal fat.
It's a first in a country where traditional dishes are meat-laden and Western-style fast food is growing in popularity. It looks like pork belly, it smells like pork belly, and it certainly tastes like pork belly. But this bacon mac and cheese is much more than that. It's a turning point in Taiwan's growing trend towards veganism. Veganism, which avoids the use of all animal products, is on the rise in Taiwan. But many here, as Buddhists and Taoists, have long practiced meat avoidance in their diets. As for younger Taiwanese, according to one of the country's leading animal protection groups, they have other reasons for cutting back on meat.
很多年轻人都开始吃素。 气候变迁也是变成一个很及时，我们马上要面对的问题，大家都可以贡献。那个贡献就是你要从这个蔬食的多选择蔬食开始。
Research from the UK's Oxford University has found that a vegan diet results in 75% less climate heating emissions, water pollution and land use than meat-eating diets. But despite those statistics and wider climate consciousness, a domestic survey by the Environment and Animal Society in Taiwan showed that meat consumption continues to rise, reflecting the challenges faced by local consumers.
Just like me, I like braised pork belly, but at some point, I just don't want to, either I don't want to harm the animals, either I don't want to do that much harm to the environment, but I have a second choice.
The option might now be more readily available on the menu, but even with a vegan pork belly, encouraging consumers to make that choice could remain a tall order. Eason Chen and Sally Jensen for TaiwanPlus.
A new plant exhibition called Breaking the Binary has opened in the UK's Kew Gardens. It showcases gender fluidity inherent in nature. Sally Jensen has more.
Nature is queer. Take, for example, the field pumpkin flower. the pitcher plant, or the wild pansy. None of them are male or female, they're both. This is Breaking the Binary's temporary garden display, part of the Queer Nature Autumn Festival at the UK's Kew Gardens. The exhibition features species that reproduce in ways that challenge binary language, like the words male and female usually used to describe plants.
We are highlighting some of the incredible things that happen in nature, some of those plants and fungi that sort of challenge traditional expectations, and really looking at the diversity and amplifying queer voices through that.
Some plants are only male or female, but most have both female and male structures. They're hermaphrodites. In botany, this diversity is crucial for adaptation and survival. By having different traits, plants can better meet the challenges of different environments, and gender is no exception.
The overwhelming response actually has been, people have been really moved by it. I think a lot of people haven't really known until they walked through the doors what they were really going to see.
And for many, once they have walked through the doors, they will see the beauty in breaking the botanical binary. Joseph Wu and Sally Jensen for TaiwanPlus.
A research team is turning a potentially harmful byproduct from making pickles into useful fertilizer. Laurel Stewart has more.
A local delicacy in the making. The town of Dapi in central Taiwan's Yunlin County is celebrated nationwide for its pickled mustard greens. But the pickling process produces waste that needs careful handling. These vats, filled with water left over from fermentation, are a cause of headaches for locals. The leftover liquid can't just be poured out, as the salty water could make the land infertile. Currently, the residue is processed by evaporation and crystallization, but even with the help of government subsidies, the treatment process is extremely expensive. But now a research team from National Taiwan University has found the unwanted waste product can be recycled for a useful purpose. It can be turned into fertilizer and then used to grow algae and other plants that are essential to fish farming.
把这个废水可以造成有用的一个营养源，循环再利用。那目前透过这套技术，可以把废水做成易肥，
就是这种所谓的生物循环再利用的一个技术。然后我们是希望以云林县为建立一个技术的平台，还有希望以结合云林县的这些农渔业，然后建立一个释放的场域，然后希望透过这种所谓的资源循环再利用方式，帮助到所谓的渔民，他们让产品做价值。
By dealing with their wastewater problems while adding value to another area of local agriculture, the researchers are very much helping the town of Dapi out of a pickle. Andy Shuer and Laurel Stewart for TaiwanPlus.
There are over 1,000 types of moss in Taiwan. That's a richness of species on par with bigger countries, but only a handful of experts are cataloging and studying these tiny plants. John Van Triest brings us a look into their world.
Taiwan's wild places vary from tropical lowlands to high mountains, but there's one thing that unites these landscapes: moss. The country has around 1,500 of the world's 23,000 varieties. Yao Kuiyu is one of 5 experts here who make their living studying these species. He's trekked all over the island taking samples, and he's still fascinated by these ancient, highly adaptable plants. They're an important part of every ecosystem they're found in, retaining water, cleaning the air, and serving as nurseries for other plants.
圆锥形的苔藓，它会吸收水分，对这个森林水汽的保持是很重要。某一些物种会把那个细鳞藓它会背在背上，细鳞藓有味道，它可以就是躲避它的捕食者。像一些昆虫，它会躲在那个圆锥形的苔藓里面。 那个鸟就啄不到它。
And especially when looked at closely under a magnifying glass, they present a world of shapes and colors. It's this side of moss that's led biology teacher Yang Yufeng to spend the past decade traveling the country in search of specimens. She's taken thousands of photos and shared them with fellow moss enthusiasts online.
苔藓也不只是绿色而已，甚至也有一些苔藓呢会呈现银白色，然后也有一些是呈现橘红色或者是紫色 这样的一个色泽，其实是比大家想象的还要来得缤纷。那甚至在微观的世界里面，每一种苔藓都有很特殊的地方。
Young's fellow moss fans have begun cultivating their own moss at home and sharing tips for creating artistic arrangements. But as appreciation for moss spreads, so do fears about conservation.
发现很多大众喜欢的那个景观瓶里面放的苔藓其实是中高海拔的苔藓。如果我们是带到平地来去培养的话，其实养不活。那另外呢，也会直接或间接造成山上苔藓株被盗采的这个情况。
These moss species have survived for millennia, but even this tiny subset of life on Earth isn't immune to human activities. Experts like Yao and Yang will continue their surveying and cataloging, and keeping an eye on moss well into the future. Devin Tai and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
The offshore Jingmen Islands have just one animal shelter, and with only a single vet and limited resources, it's in need of help. I went to see how the center is helping keep local wildlife healthy.
This Burmese python is having its wound cleaned and a fresh bandage applied after it was rescued from being caught in a fishing net. It's being treated at this animal rescue center, the only one here in the outlying Jingmen Islands, Taiwan's closest point to China. The person caring for all the needy animals is Chen Ting, the center's sole veterinarian. She's been working here since 2022.
其实我觉得就是在我生长的这个过程中，野生动物其实陪伴我面对很多困难，所以我就觉得说，我现在有这个能力的话，我也想要跟他们一起面对他们在野外面对的困难这样子。
The shelter was established in 2015. In the 8 years since, the number of injured animals the center treats has grown rapidly. In its first full year, it treated 200 animals. 7 years later, it saw 700. To date, the center has handled over 2,800 cases, with the only vet specializing in wild animals in the county. There aren't many large animals in Jingmen, so most of the ones that end up here are small. Around 80% of them are birds and 20% are snakes.
鸟最多就是落草的雏幼鸟，对，它们可能因为民众修剪树木啊，或是清理冷气的时候被挖出来这样子，然后被送到我们这里来。蛇类的话，就是以缠到网子是最多的，就是鸡舍会有一些防蛇用的渔网。
Another threat to the wild animals in Jingmen are the county's many roads, with cars often striking them as they try to cross. Since she started, Chen says she's found working at the rescue center extremely rewarding.
觉得很感动，因为动物可以好好活着，就是野生动物救伤最大的目的。
But it hasn't been easy. Chen says it's frustrating when locals react to snakes released back into the wild.
我们放蛇的时候，有时候会比较偷偷摸摸。其实我觉得蛮可悲的啦，对于这些蛇而言，其实明明都是这个生态系里面很重要的物种，它们都是不可或缺的一份子。
She also worries about Jingmen's local ecology. The region has been developing rapidly in recent years, with many new houses and roads. This has destroyed habitats for much of the local wildlife. But Chen has hope for the future. She wants the center to recruit more staff and buy better equipment. Most importantly, she wants to help educate the locals more about animals and their welfare.
我自己比较希望是民众可以多去认识身边的动物。对，其实对一般我们这里送进来的动物而言，他们常常是因为人为的因素去受伤的。
Chen and her staff of 3 work 7 days a week to keep the animals here safe. And if she doesn't do it, no one else will. Alex Chen and Zaini Chi for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching Here's What Happened. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, we leave you with images of some rescued harpy eagles being released into the wild after 5 years. I'm Zaini Chi, take care and see you next week.